All right, is everybody ready to roll?
Yes, we are.
All right, it's 10 o'clock. We'll call the Environment Committee to order. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, welcome everybody. We got a lot of faces in the crowd today. This is good. I'm Bill Emerson, Lake County Surveyor, and if we could just kind of go around the room, including the audience, if that's okay with everybody here, introduce themselves and say where they're from.
My name is Kathy Luther. I am the NERC Environmental Director.
Laura Baum, NERC staff.
Brenda Scott Henry, City of Gary.
Tom Black, Town of Pilot. Tim Kingsland, City of Hobart.
Jillian Burton, City of Hobart.
Kathy Sippel, Earth Charter, Indiana.
Reggie Korthoff, representing the Indiana MS4 Partnership.
Catherine Balkema, Lake Michigan Coastal Program.
Charles Bransky, NERC staff.
Meredith Stillwell, NERC staff.
Esther Lewis, working here. Connie Machella, Highland Neighbors for Sustainability. Kathy Perrin, Highland Neighbors for Sustainability.
Doug Ross, freelancer for the Coast Tribune.
Ellen Capitan, Valparaiso City Council, and we just established our Environmental Advisory Board.
Chris Mark, Structure Point.
Gunnery Kane, NERC staff.
And last but not least, Carl Lissick, Drive Through Indiana.
You're not last. Helen has arrived.
Oh.
Helen Charlotte, I'm with IU Northwest. Anybody? Jenny?
Jenny Dimitrov, Environmental Sustainability.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. We did have minutes from our November meeting. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look at those. There's a motion to accept the minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as printed.
Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The minutes are accepted. Do we have any public comments? Do we have, no? Anyone sign in?
Anyone sign in for public comments?
All right, then we will have announcements at the end, so that's good. All right, moving on to our agenda. We have our staff project updates, the Air Environment Transportation Project application.
Oh, there's a slide. There's a slide.
Oh, we have slides.
These are the transportation, local government applications for transportation funds that this committee reviewed. Is this one? Oh, that's not mine. That is just the pre-meeting thing. Okay. So, and I want to put this in context before I show you the slate of our projects. That NERC received 26 applications for funding, and the way this works is we don't actually give you money. We put you in a spending plan, for a 5-year spending plan, that you will get money. We hope you will get money as the years go on, as money becomes available. So it's not kind of like the DNR coastal grants, if you're familiar with them. They actually give you a grant. We give you a spot in the spending plan that we hold for you until your turn. There, that's my non-official description of what Charles does. Anyway, 13 jurisdictions applied for those 26 projects. And then in the categories, like we review air quality and environment projects, so that was 4, plus we added another one in that was a road project that got moved into environment, so that's actually 5. That's pretty good. And then I just put it in a different chart in case you're a visual type person. Most of the projects we get in are for roadway modification, but we are starting to expand the other types of projects we get. And the amount of money we had available in overall in the funding for 20s, we had 47 million available, and we got applications for 60, 70 million. So clearly not everything will get funded, that is the message. That's in Lincoln Porter. LaPorte County has its own pie again, at least doubly subscribed. Okay, that's the big picture, really big picture. So we reviewed,
Yeah, you make that, like, the
bigger?
Yeah,
Oh, that would probably be a good idea.
we're getting old.
Or the,
Display.
yeah, because
Well, I'm not supposed to make you read the slides anyway. Why is there one? I feel like there's a problem with it. I don't know. So these are the projects we reviewed in a working group. So, because I'm not in presentation mode,
yeah, there we go.
because I'm being, I don't know how much that helps.
Ah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I haven't gotten all the way through my coffee yet, and I didn't even bring it in here.
Oh,
So we have 5 projects on our slate that the working group reviewed and discussed the scoring of. All of the scoring is out of 100. I will note the 2 stormwater projects, they were applied for as road projects, and because they mostly dealt with a stormwater infrastructure, we moved them to protect, so the points didn't really line up well, which is maybe why they didn't score as high as they could. The process would be that this committee can choose to recommend these projects all to the Transportation Policy Committee, which then takes the reports and recommendations and scores from all the different focus area committees. And then Charles plugs them into his magic money tree machine. Love that truck.
This is government, we don't have any magic money trees.
So just I don't know, because you didn't get this ahead of time, the Cedar Lake 147th Avenue culvert replacement is a culvert enlargement, which is an area, which is definitely a resiliency project for higher water. Prevent road overtopping from high water. In Hammond, there's an area on 109th Street, this intersection that always ponds water into the street. So that's also improving stormwater management off of a highway road area. Cedar Lake, yes.
When we reviewed these projects,
Mhm.
I thought there were a lot more stormwater projects included. There were?
No, these are the ones we received.
Okay.
Um,
Have you seen them?
And, okay, now I'm trying to remember. Cedar Lake, has, now I'm looking at Carl. They're doing diesel, upgrades, like replacing really old diesels with really new diesels, which makes that huge air emission benefit. Portage is purchasing some equipment that is, compressed natural gas instead of diesel. Those are all the applications. And then the air quality, application education for Green Fleets is a partnership we have with Drive Clean Indiana, where they help all the municipalities figure this stuff out and provide technical support, grant readiness. So the scoring on this, that was always a little goofy because, you know, they helped a lot of VW projects, so we counted emission reduction from all the projects they helped because that wasn't federal funds and it wasn't double counting. So, so it rolls up into a really huge emission reduction with all the help they provide for the communities. So those are the 5 projects in a nutshell. So the question is whether, if anybody has further questions, if you want to discuss it further, or if we want to vote to recommend these to the transportation planning committee. Policy committee.
Kathy and Charles, the 2 infrastructure projects, I guess, are those, does that include engineering costs, or is that? Or is that
The
all-
one for Hammond did not,
oh,
because Hammond does their own engineering. They always control they like controlling their design schedule, so. but the one for Cedar Lake did.
Okay.
Cedar Lake did have,
Design in there, yes, preliminary engineering. I think there was some right of way in both of those also, but that's always minimal.
Mhm. I actually, because this meeting was delayed 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, I had all the projects queued up. If you had questions, I did not think to do that today. But if people have questions, I can probably come up with something. Any more details or questions? The only project that was in a disadvantaged community is the Hammond one, and we have a lot of our scoring weighted that way. And then a lot of our scoring is weighted towards the actual tons of air pollution removed, both criteria pollutants and greenhouse gas pollutants. So the air pollution ones is scored over 50, which is good. Again, we don't have actually funding. I'm not sure we have funding in the spending plan. The nice thing about vehicle projects is if somebody's project engineering or permitting or something gets delayed, they're easier to sub in to fill a gap. So I guess we would ask for a motion for a recommendation to approve this week to send to TPC.
Kathy, we had a considerable lengthy discussion on these projects initially. There was a lot of feedback and a lot of input. So at this time, I will make a motion to recommend these selected projects.
All right. Is there a second? Okay. Yeah, floor.
Linda.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? All right, recommended. Thank you. All right, moving on.
The rest of this is project updates, which are, and I'm also acting as Jen today because she is out optimistically tagging trees. Why can't we go back? Close it. Okay. So at previous meetings, we've talked about some of our projects that are coming up. I'm not going to take these necessarily in order. Those of you who've been on various advisory groups for the Chicago MSA Climate Action Plan, that plan has been placed on hold pending concerns about federal funding. In discussion with CMAP at the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, we are planning, the staff are planning to continue the technical part that we're able to. As far as we know, we're continuing to put climate planning in our work plan for NDOT because that was they told us to keep the 2025 priorities. So I'm hoping to use the pause in the MSA plan to go back to our regional plan and maybe catch it up. So, but other than some limited staff time and CMAP's hoping to at least finish one model run of their plan out of their planning funds. We don't know if those projects will be allowed to continue or not, but we didn't know, none of us wanted to get further out on a limb, not knowing if we'd be reimbursed. The Great Lakes Environmental Justice Re-Grant Program, I've talked about that numerous times. This was a partnership with the Alliance for the Great Lakes to work in the Lake Michigan watershed with environmental justice communities and disadvantaged groups that on capacity building and projects that impacted water quality or ecological invasive species, and you could also do like job training and other things. So and it was gonna be re-grant, so we just put out grants. We've totally put a stop on that until it somehow survives the current climate in Washington. With regards to community trees, some of you may have applied for trees for the spring community tree planting. We have not heard as much negative from the Forest Service as from some other programs, but that is funded through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, which may or may not be also getting close scrutiny right now. We did accept proposals. We have projects. Jen is actually out at the nurseries right now selecting trees, but we're waiting to find out if we can get permission, and Department of Agriculture does this frequently, to get, receive the federal funds before we pay for trees, so that we don't pay $30,000 for trees and then can't get that back. So we're still optimistic about that, so that we think we can get that approved and go forward, but if we can't, we'll move the trees until fall and hope that things have settled down by then. Yes.
Can we go back to the regional climate action plan?
Yes.
Okay, I know you said maybe use the pause with the Chicago to get back to the regional. Would that be an NERC only thing, or would that include the core team that worked on it previously?
If the core team that worked on it previously still has time and interest.
Count me in.
Okay.
Yeah, count me in. And also, I remember when we worked on the original, I think you said that NERC was committed to doing a greenhouse gas inventory refresh. Was it every 5 years?
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing that's happening. Yes, and so I thought I'm going to request NIPSCO to give us all the energy data, because that really is the bulk of it, that and the transportation model. And so if they will give us the data, and ICLEI is rolling out a beta test of an update to ClearPath, which is their inventory software platform. And we've been selected to be one of a handful of regions to test the new regional count system they're putting in, which isn't quite ready yet. But so I promised them if I could be part of their test that I would ask NIPSCO for new data and do that. So since we did 2017, if I do 2023, that would be a 5-year, and that 2023 should be pretty settled out by now. So we will try to update the inventory and see what, if anything, has changed. So basically, I guess this is in a nutshell. All of the grants that this department has been working on are pretty much on hold unless we can do the trees. We're really still trying to be upbeat that the Forest Service is popular and the trees are popular, and Department of Agriculture is popular in general, but no one can say.
Ken, as you move forward with this, keep me updated on where you stand with the money, because I have an idea where we can get some money for the trees.
Okay.
Okay? I think without grant money, money we don't have to pay back or anything, I think I have an idea.
I did think this would be a good time if other organizations around the table have concerns or grants. I don't know, Catherine, if you know anything about NOAA or the coastal.
Yeah, so I'll touch a little bit more on it when we get to like
the partner updates.
Yeah, with
Okay.
that. But basically, like in a nutshell, we've been told to proceed as normal until we hear otherwise. At least like our built-in grants program in our agency is going to be operating as per usual until I am told not to do that.
Okay.
The Kelp plan update is still underway. I'll touch on that later.
Okay. Sorry.
Tentatively, we're all right for now.
Okay. That's good news. Good news.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any other questions? We're planning to make a decision about the community tree by mid-March. Because we really have to plant, we normally give the trees out in April for a spring planting, and after that, we have to wait till fall to plant them anyway. So,
This might bleed more into the next, item, but from my perspective, like with all the uncertainty going on the kind of the federal level, I'd like to see, and this is for discussion, not for a motion or anything today, but either like the Environment Committee resolution or recommendation to hopefully be adopted by, NERC full commission, reflecting our commitment locally to environmental sustainability and environmental issues, to get out ahead of some of the stuff to the extent we can. That's just a discussion for, for the group. A lot of local communities, I think, feel the same way about protecting our local environment, regardless of what comes down from the federal government. So that's just for maybe bring back, we talked to Ty about it too, and other commissioners, but I think now would be a good time to do that, to kind of.
How soon do you want that?
Well, that's, I don't know.
well, this is a kind of a good segue into, last month, we had a call with, several partners. We had Drive Clean Indiana, we had Earth Charter, and Highland Sustainability, Highland Neighbors for Sustainability. We had a bunch of the different sustainability initiatives, some of which are officially adopted by their communities and some of which are still working on trying to get there. Kind of to get a brainstorming session about how we can support them better, what kind of things they might need to help them. And so some of the things that we talked about, I think there was a discussion about like speakers bureaus and experts, so that if your sustainability or environmental or beautification committee wants to learn more about something or wants to consider a new initiative between us and Coastal Program and Drive Clean and a lot of other partners, we have a lot of contacts and experts, and maybe putting together a list of those people or helping to facilitate finding those people. That was one thing we talked about. We talked about some of the folks that are still trying to get something passed that that's not something NERC staff could do, but there were other partners at the table could help with the advocacy piece that some of the groups are still trying to work on. We talked about doing some workshops on different topics and themes. And we talked about maybe offering facilitation, like if any of the newer groups are want to have a plan or develop a plan of some kind. I'm looking at some of you that were on the call because I can't find the notes that Jen sent me. I think just like providing a network for all the municipalities with the sustainability people to talk to each other about what they're doing, just that would be a huge benefit for people to learn.
Grant support too.
Yeah, and grant support with a couple of grant readiness.
Can you make sure that all the communities get this, even though they may not have a sustainability committee, because they learn from what others are doing, and they will be able to see what direction they need to move into and what help is out there?
So my challenge with that is in the absence of a sustainability or environment of a committee or a staff person, it shouldn't just be, it could just be the I suppose the MS4, but.
The MS4 person. I mean,
You were thinking that.
well, you
Yeah.
look at what the requirement is under the federal permit, and they have to do this outreach and education. Every community has to. They struggle with thinking they have to come up with something new when they actually could use something that's out there. And that's what I was saying about the Microplastic Alliance. Not enough people know about that. At the meeting last night at Valpo, maybe 4 communities, where every single community could use the information that they have to meet their permit requirements for outreach and education protecting water.
If I could add to that, being an unincorporated area, and there are many that don't have a city or a town, we don't even hear about these things. And in particular in our community, we've got a major highway coming through and perhaps a lot of development, that would be associated with it. So we are concerned, but we really don't have it connected. We could, we are part of the county, even though sometimes it's forgotten.
Can't volunteer to at least be a connection.
I'm sorry?
I would volunteer to be a connection. Kathy Sipple, like I've helped some
Oh, why not?
communities get, like sharing the ordinance that they used or, the framework that others use to advance.
If, I don't know if Councilman Vasquez is here. He would probably be a great connection because he covers six townships out of 12 and 3 precincts in Portage, and he's an organic farmer. I would be happy to, work with Andy at any time because he's all for, finding out things of this nature. So, and he's currently president of the Porter County Council.
Currently, at this point, we are working on our work program for our transportation planning funds that will start in July, and Jen and I are putting in tasks in there to support sustainability planning in the region as part of our support of the sensible tools and good land use and good practices. And I'm looking for the dates. We have 2 workshops to that end. We have 2 workshops already scheduled for the Sensible Tools Handbook. And I'm trying to find the dates of those. And one will be kind of the Sensible Tools 101, which is for planning. Good community planning, what do you do? Are you on it's really targeted for people on a plan commission or a zoning board or the appeals, that's it, appeals. Yes, BZA, those kind of people, but anybody can go to know what you're supposed to do and what are best practices, and evaluate your own community and that kind of thing. So that one, I am still.
Just don't do it the first Tuesday of the month.
And we are working with Purdue, and we've already scheduled them, so I'm looking for them. And the second one will be more on green infrastructure and urban forestry, and both are very relevant. It kind of depends, right? Are you a growing community? Then the planning and zoning might be really important for your community sustainability. If you're already pretty built out, then you're looking at retrofitting, and obviously that still could be a topic, but it may not be your lowest hanging fruit or your highest priority. Maybe energy efficiency of buildings you already have. And I've been talking about this for a while, and I thought we scheduled these in April.
Are these going to
Well,
be
these dates will be
open?
coming out, and I will make sure they come out to you guys.
Are they in person or Zoom?
They will be in person.
And you're
There
going
it is.
to, can I supply the NICEWIDE email list that's all the cities and towns
Yes.
and counties in the 3, Lake Porter and LaPorte? And if you get it into the hands of the MS4 coordinator, it will get to the newly
person.
elected officials or officials that are there.
I am actually trying to see if I
Got
can.
it on mute. I must have bumped something.
See, the green infrastructure too, Kathy, is something US EPA is really focusing on now for the long-term impacts to water quality. So we want to make sure the communities have the tools to understand what they have to do over the long term and how they inspect it.
I have the dates. We were, okay, April 8th, from 4:30 PM to 7:30 PM. It occurred to us that many of these folks are sustainable or people with day jobs. And that's gonna be the kind of the 101, the sensible planning and zoning. And it's based all on Indiana regulations, so, and then April 22nd, birthday, is the one for the green infrastructure and urban forestry. Also from 4:30 to 7:30.
I think a lot of
Here?
people who are involved in this might be busy that day for Earth Day.
Yeah, that maybe,
That's right.
that just occurred to me now as I look at my calendar, but that's a Tuesday night, I don't know. So maybe we will discuss that. That one, yeah, I don't think Purdue's coming for that, so we may be able to move that. But those are the dates right now.
I think the Porter County Earth Day is on a Saturday.
Yeah, most of the big Earth Day events are on
Yeah.
Saturday.
April 12th, the Porter County,
But like
Indiana.
East Chicago has something on Earth Day itself.
Oh, they
I don't
do?
know about
Okay.
other communities, yeah.
Okay. Cause I know like some of the sustainability groups are really focused on energy, and some of them are really focused on green. So, and between all the different like state and technical partners, and I think, you know, the universities, that there's a lot of, things we can do, so, I don't know whether maybe we wanna make that kind of a working group going forward to keep planning on that. Mallory was gonna come today and talk about Partners for Clean Air. That's another kind of partnership where we do, try to encourage organizations to sign up to do voluntary actions on air quality action days. And that used to be huge, and it's kind of shrunk, in recent years, so we're gonna try to do more attention on that, because we did get, upgraded or downgraded to the next worst level of non-attainment. Yeah. Yeah, so,
Serious, that's all. I don't know if it's updated on IDEM's website.
well, I think we're proposed to be moved from serious to severe. I don't think the air quality is necessarily worse, it may be that, standards changed, or that, I think it's weather related. There's a lot of weather related part to the ozone. So if we have a bunch of hot weather, then we're gonna have more days exceed this, so,
Somebody asked at a meeting the other day if we were, and Brenda will remember this, if we were gonna go back to it all, it's up to cleaner air. And you know, the EPA started, I don't know if you're going back to that or adding to it or what.
we actually have been revisiting that messaging, but we had moved away from advertising, but we're actually, talking with Partners for Clean Air about that. We found out that IDEM actually had a budget for Partners for Clean Air that nobody knew about, so, that's not fair. I'm sure that people did know about it, but they've had some staff turnover. And so we are going to build that into our program, which gives us a little more flexibility to maybe do a little more.
People remember it.
They do still remember it.
The Stormwater Group did a test on this, and they went out to a gas station and asked, like 7 people that were driving up, what do you do on an ozone action day? What does it mean? And they got 4 answers. So then they turned around and said, what do you do on a day you need to protect your water? And the people stood there with blank faces. So we know where we have to do and what's working and what isn't working, so.
So we wanna, also, I think that, Mallory, who's the IDEM Partners for Clean Air Coordinator, and, Drive Clean, and myself and others, we also wanna be kind of on your speakers bureau list if you're in a, group, that we can come and talk to you about that, because Partners for Clean Air, we do have some high-level sponsors that we request to, for funding, to match things, that money that I have from federal funds. But there's plenty of things you can do that you don't have to pay any money. Sending an email out to your mailing list on an Air Quality Action Day with tips is a high priority activity, just so people know. Just as an example.
So what do you guys think about the resolution? So, does anybody, I can create a subcommittee to put it together for our next meeting. I don't wanna just throw something out there just for me. I'd like to,
I'll work on it.
would you like to be on that subcommittee? Okay.
Hey, Bill, I would just say is, we were in Washington a couple of weeks ago. I will tell you is that we need to tell our story. And I think the education process is definitely something we need to do a better job on as Northwest Indiana. Because a lot of the projects that we were informing our delegates about, they knew nothing about. And again, they're overwhelmed, but I would just say is we need to do a better job collectively here in Northwest Indiana telling our story. So I would wholeheartedly support that.
I agree with that, and I was, when, you know, when Kathy and I were talking about a lot of these cuts coming, and, you know, that's just the way it's gonna be, I mean, that's what happens, I guess, when things change, but, in Washington, but, we could look at this as kind of an opportunity to kind of regroup locally and reinforce some of our ideas, and, like you said, message better and spread the news about what we're doing and what our priorities are, at least locally here, so, yeah. Is anyone, who else would like to be on that, subcommittee? Sam? Okay.
I'm a part of our solar opportunity in Indiana, and you guys may have seen the article that came out. But if you didn't read all the way to the bottom, you would know that we already got funding back. So it was like, you know, Indiana's been impacted by the Solar for All grant, right? $117 million. But right at the end of the census, you'll see that EPA has released those funds and we're moving forward with the project. So that's what I'm saying, like, we do have to tell our story, we do need to get it out. Indiana did do our part, we supported things. So I think that us saying our story, because everybody's impacted, right? But, tell the story.
Okay, can I clarify? Are we, so we had this call, we were having that with a bunch of the sustainability, the local initiatives. Is that in addition to or the same as, or should we merge them? I mean, I just want to clarify what.
My thought, it was to just reinforce NERC's commitment to environmental sustainability, and, you know, my fear is that when the funding dries up a little bit, from the federal side, things will get overlooked. And Charles, you know, you deal with a lot of stuff, you know, all the funding, right? And so I wanna make sure that, you know, our committee has a voice, even as, you know, the climate, in some ways is moving away from those concerns, obviously with the funding drying up. So, I just wanna kind of reinforce our position as a regional planning commission, that we're committed to
I
environmental.
guess I could volunteer for that. I was looking for clarification what the resolution
Yeah,
would be for the committee.
that's, and then, you know, we can just do it all by email if you guys want, and kind of, I can try to draft something up and we can comment on it and then bring it to the full environment committee. Councilman?
Not part of the committee, but George usually drags it wherever he's going anyway. I would volunteer as well.
Okay. Let's see, I'm kind of sure I got everybody who wants to.
Can I, yeah, if you wanna send it to the whole, we've been moving away from subcommittee and just working
that's
groups
true.
or task force.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's just my only, I'm staff, I have to get into it.
No, you're right, I appreciate that.
It's a different,
Okay.
No, this would be very helpful because I could take this before the city council, get the city involved.
Yeah.
So anything you guys could do from that level would be helpful for the city.
And, you know, I know sometimes resolutions, they don't, you know, can be overlooked and not taken, you know, but I think it's important that we say where we stand and, you know, that's what we do, so.
You have one currently for the environment, right? For environmental commitment that we have.
well, our enabling legislation requires us to maintain a regional, program and process for coordinating on regional environmental issues.
All right, so we'll.
And then there's a lot of stuff within that we can do, but that's one of our three, requirements in our enabling legislation.
All right, well, something, I'll circulate something with that group and then we'll get it out to this full committee before our next, meeting for a vote up or down.
Okay.
Thank you. What else we got? You want to go next?
Yeah, I think we go to, yeah.
All right, Kathy, you ready?
For the,
With Ellen and Hudson.
Yeah, all right. So next we, have a presentation, by Kathy. Simple, Ellen.
your PowerPoint it's just minimized, I think you can just open it.
Decarbonizing steel.
Unless I accidentally close it when I close it.
It's here.
Oh, did I mess it up?
Nope, I just didn't hit escape yet from the other one. There we go, did that escape?
There it is.
Here we are. Okay.
And then you can put it on the.
3 minutes.
I'm not part of your presentation, I'm just doing the back.
Trying to escape.
Here we are. All right.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I'll reintroduce myself and then my colleagues who are with me. I'm Ellen Charlotta. I am with Indiana University Northwest. I'm faculty in our public, can you hear me, first of all? Do I need to speak up? In our School of Public and Environmental Affairs, and then I also am director of our Center for Urban and Regional Excellence. This center is a liaison between the community and the university. We've worked on a number of projects in the region collaboratively with our community partners, our municipalities. One project you might know about is the tax parcel project that got a little bit of publicity last year. So that was one of the things that we worked on with liaison. So Kathy and Esther are also working on this initiative, which I'm going to describe briefly and then hand it over to them. Kathy, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah, around the table, I introduce myself as being with Earth Charter Indiana, which is my role, usually when I'm here. That is a part-time role. My full-time thing is a consultant, so that's how I'm showing up today. Just to clear up any confusion that might arise there, and I'll get into it later.
And I'm Esther, who is founder and CEO of Holistic Evolution, and today I am showing up as facilitator of these conversations.
Sorry, I didn't know.
Sorry, we didn't have your name on the agenda, sorry.
Yeah.
So we're here, yeah, go ahead. So we want to share with you an initiative that we've undertaken here and in the region, give you a little bit of information about it, also encourage you to interact with us in community conversations around an issue that I know is important to everybody here, which is steel decarbonization. There's been an enormous amount of work in many different areas around steel decarbonization, and we're taking a small piece of that, and we're going to try to contribute to what's happening in the region, give information to individuals so that they can make better decisions. Policymakers, NERC can make better decisions. So what do I mean by that? Well, we know that steel decarbonization is an important economic issue, social issue, and environmental issue, right? There's no question about that. What we also know is that there's a lot of different conversations and organizations working on this issue in the region. What we don't have information on is sort of the landscape. Where does the public stand on this issue? Where do nonprofits, where's their work, and what are they thinking about how to move forward on this issue? How does the public sector think about it across the board, whether it's state, local, and then also what is business thinking on it? So we tend to work on issues, and it's important to share expertise inside of our own groups, but we don't always do a very good job, except for things like this at NERC, where we exchange that information. So IUN specifically is sort of, think of it as an inventory, what we call landscape analysis, just trying to figure out what's going on, what, when, where, right, and who's involved. And so to do that, we came up with a model, and we have some goals. And Kathy, so we're going to work in the region. We're going to provide a comprehensive overview of the current initiatives that are underway. And then we're also going to conduct and report findings of a series of structured conversations and individual interviews. Kathy is our expert in the area of individual interviews. Esther is working on structured conversations. We're going to put it all together and then bring some recommendations and share it with everybody, make it a public initiative so that everybody will know where we stand. So, go ahead. So the goals: identify the major public, private, and nonprofit stakeholder organizations, conduct the conversations, and then develop the recommendations.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about the first one. I first got wind of this project probably almost a year ago, and so I was showing up at this meeting and saying, it's coming, it's coming. Well, it didn't end up really officially coming until about September. So there were very exciting things that were emerging, as Ellen alluded to, other groups that are working on it. GUARD is one. I don't know that they send representatives to this group, but they held, a great event in Gary around it. There were a couple, at least Connie was in the cohort. Were there any other people in the room from your cohort? In the steel, decarbonizing steel story cohort? That just, that was a whole other thing that arose, like while I was starting to plot the landscape. So that was exciting. Those were some, obvious things. And then anybody else, I was kind of gleaning from the interviews that I did and said, who else should I interview? Who else should I interview? So as time and willingness from those people to speak with me, we've just been putting all of that together. So that was really my role.
Okay, so we wanted to be able to provide individuals with the opportunity to speak about their work and what they think the future should look like. And so Kathy has gathered all that information. All of this is, I will say, confidential. Nobody is being identified as individuals. We're really just trying to better understand where the community sits on the issue. That's really important, right? So we're not trying to, we can map it out in the sense that we'll say, well, nonprofit organizations that she interviewed identified these as potential issues, or business identified these particular issues, right? But no individual and no organization is going to be identified. So we want to be able to preserve an honest conversation around this so that we can get the best information possible, right? And so the other piece of this is to have what we call structured conversations, and that's just going to tell you why this method is a little different than other things that you might have seen in the region and how we came about doing that, and she'll share her experiences.
So we were trained, a group of community members were trained in facilitating structured, facilitative dialogue. So it's basically just a framework to have community conversations. It's a really effective framework for ensuring that every individual person in the space feels heard and feels like the things that are important to them have been said. Is that it?
Yeah, well, you can, maybe we'll talk a little bit about how we're going to organize these.
Yeah, so we already facilitated a conversation with the nonprofit sector, and then we look forward to facilitating either one or multiple conversations in the public sector. And so, again, the questions are really geared towards steel decarbonization, but really focusing in on the things that's important to that individual in the room. And then private sector, or one conversation or multiple conversations in the private sector. And then if there are basically like stakeholders in the conversation around steel decarbonization, we would facilitate a separate conversation with them. But the goal is to create a safe space, to have like these guardrails in place so that we're having like a productive conversation. Connie was there. I asked her what she thought about it. She said it was good. So if Connie words mean anything to you guys, it was good.
Yeah, so in addition to getting in a better understanding of the landscape around what's happening here in the region, right, around steel decarbonization and people's perceptions of it, we also wanted to demonstrate this method. So I'm sure if you've attended town halls, you know in the region that it doesn't take long for them to sort of devolve into confusion. I'll just say confusion, right? And then not everybody feels heard beyond, we don't always have the best way to move forward. Well, this method, which is actually a national organization which does international work, was the trainer. And so we've been doing it in the K-12 space, we're doing it in the steel space. Anytime we think that, we're not assuming that people are going to get in arguments, we're just saying we want to make sure that we guarantee that everybody feels like they have that opportunity to have, to speak and to share their views and be respected by others that are in the room, right? And Esther does a fantastic job with that. We use the information that Kathy, has identified. She did an amazing job getting an idea of the landscape of who's doing what, when, and where. We invite those groups, and then we ask them, is there anybody else who needs to be at the table? So it's not exclusive in any way, right? If someone says to us, you forgot this person, you forgot this organization, we're bringing them in so that we can get this done. Okay, so those will take place, and then.
I have a quick
I'm sorry.
question.
Yeah, sure, Reggie.
You said that the nonprofit conversation is completed. What exactly did you do?
Okay, so we had, the conversations are designed to be small, all right? So we had 5 organizations that responded that they wanted to participate, no one is required, right? And they each sent 2, I think almost everybody sent 2 people, okay? So it's a small 10-person conversation. Esther asked 3 key questions, and then as the conversation moves through, she can describe the method that we use.
So it's timed responses, and you kind of set the stage coming into the conversation. It's kind of like I have my hat on as Esther, and I'm fun, but then when we're in this conversation, like I'm a timekeeper and like redirecting and reminding everybody of the rules of the conversation. So it is a process that the name of the organization is Essential Partners. It's an international organization that's done this, and kind of like some really high tension spaces and areas, and utilize this method for some really productive conversations. I think the big thing in coming out of this structured facilitated dialogue is clear next steps. Like we're able to get to that. As long as we have the right people at the table. And so I think that's why Dr. Charlotte put the QR code up there, is because we are looking to facilitate these conversations in the public sector and then in the private sector as well.
So for example, we have 3 questions. I think the first question, forgive me if I'm not correct, but the wording might not be exact, is what is your understanding, or how do you perceive steel, maybe Connie can help, steel decarbonization, right? So the first step is to understand what everybody is bringing to the table about the issue. So if I say air pollution in this room, we're probably going to get all sorts of responses, in terms of understanding of what it is and why it's important, right? So we just want to sort of level set, understand where everybody is coming from. When we say steel decarbonization, what does that mean to you? Like, what is that, right? And then I think the second one looks at opportunities. Where can we find opportunities for shared interest around steel decarbonization? And the third one, I think, asked, if I remember correctly, that you put yourself in the position of the other sector. So if I'm in the nonprofit sector, how would someone from the private sector, do you think, be thinking about this? And share what you think about that, right? Let's understand what our assumptions are about other people's perceptions around this issue. So it's not asking, do we use do we retire the blast furnaces? That's not what we're looking at. Not technical. We're looking at perceptions and understanding about an issue.
And it really gets down to like those individual perspectives and what makes people passionate about any particular topic. Like I facilitated conversations in Fort Wayne with the YMCA. The organization is doing like a international thing with YMCAs, and it's things come out that there is opportunity in the conversation because we are listening to like our teammate, our community member, that you're able to see like what their perspective is on that, but then also you can see why they have that perspective. So that's the first question asked, the question of what's your perception of steel decarbonization and where does that come from? I'm sorry.
So Andy, you have a question?
Yeah.
I have a question in regards to business. Have you talked to the manufacturer, let them know that that's not your focus, is to shut down a of blast furnace. You made that comment. And being a former steel worker, you know, somebody told me to shut it down, I'm going, oh my God, without having all the facts. So you're having that conversation with them?
I went on a tour of the ArcelorMittal R&D facility. It was hosted by the Society of Innovators, and they were openly sharing what their efforts were around decarbonization. I think it was 2 weeks ago, I attended the Association for Iron and Steel Technologies chapter meeting that was held in Mirabel. And they asked as their keynote speaker, somebody from SSAB Steel, they're a Swedish company with facilities here in the US. Somebody from Iowa who works there was talking about their fossil-free steel that they're doing, not to scale here. So it definitely is not equivalent with shutting down. It's how do we make this a safer, cleaner process?
Have you also talked with the many finishing mini mills that we have at the Port of Indiana? Because if you've ever been there, I love to go fishing. I don't go there anymore because I can't breathe when they're fishing, and nobody's really rolling hot steel in a great amount. So there is, you know, once again, you brought to the point, when we think of air pollution, the air in that area is of very poor quality, and it has nothing to do with blast furnace or rolling. I also used to work out there too at one time, and as you well know, Kathy, I've been an organic produce farmer for well over 30 years now. But that area too suffers. So you talk to people who not only on the making end, but on the finishing end, because they provide a certain amount of unhealthy air, okay?
So I'll let Kathy jump in here in a second. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt her. But I just want to say, at this point, what we really would like to know is who do we need to have at the table? So your suggestions are great, Councilman. If we can get a list of individuals in the steel sector, and we have talked to people at Purdue because they have a steel cohort, right? We want as many organizations as possible so we can send out the invite and say, will you please come to the conversation so we can figure those things out, right? Not find answers, but collect up your concerns and then report out on those as themes for where we need to do some work in the region, right? So that's the difference. Not say it has to be this way or that way. If they report out that they're concerned about those things, we'll report that out. But we're not making a recommendation as to what needs to be done. I just want to make that clear.
And I'll add to that, that this is not my area of expertise. And so as I'm facilitating these conversations, it's strictly me gathering those personal, emotional responses and perceptions in the room. So it's not like pushing one agenda over another. It really is just like us having a conversation, and then we have note takers in the back that are familiar with like the technical terms and things that's taking notes.
Can I respond real quick though? Yeah, Andy, I just want to say I still have room on my dance card to complete some more interviews, and so I would be more than happy to get a referral from you and to schedule that interview. So there's basically 3 ways that we're collecting information. It's the interviews, it's these conversations, and the last one is the survey. So we'd really love it if anybody in this room can like snapshot or share this on social media and ask stakeholders that you know to complete the survey. So at least we're mapping in input. We know we're not going to get everybody, but we're hoping through those 3 methods to get the majority. I see George has a question.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out a way to reach out. I know that in my community, we've got about 10,000 people.
Yeah.
There are steel workers there.
Yeah.
And the rest, in other parts of the county there are, in Lake County and LaPorte probably as well.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, and we do meet as township trustees once every quarter, and we have different topics that we discuss just to get more information about what's going on. I wonder if there's some way we can reach not only the trustees, but the people out in the community who actually work there and they think nobody ever listens to them.
Yeah.
Is there some thoughts on that? I know you've got some
The
points.
survey would be good, but also if we talk to you, and if anybody has ideas for how we reach those individuals, see, this is the challenge, right? You can put out a flyer, but unless people really understand what you're trying to get
We've
accomplished,
got to
that's
share,
what word of mouth.
share instead of
Right.
being diverse.
Right,
So
right,
we
then
gotta
you don't get very
bring
far.
people together to talk and not argue.
Right. And so people are also, we've noticed that people are hesitant, I'd say more, my observation, and this is just my observation, is that over the last 10 years, people have become increasingly hesitant to be part of conversations, right? So calling them out and asking them to share their perspectives has become more difficult, and we can't get people to the table. So that's one of the obstacles we're trying to overcome. Another reason why we're trying to use this method, because we figure if we use the method and people feel comfortable with it, and they know this is what we're gonna do, they might be more inclined to come. But that's a process, and we would love to be able to meet those groups. If you have ideas for how we can get the word out, please let us know. Yeah.
Ellen,
Reggie?
when you develop a structured conversation,
Yeah.
you have reached out now to nonprofits, then you got public-private combined.
Right.
When all this is done, what is the final deliverable?
Okay, so the final deliverable, now remember I would say this is a first step, right?
Right.
So is a report that's gonna talk about the landscape of perceptions around steel decarbonization, right? So we'll do a segment on what does the, generally speaking, with caveats, right? This is what the nonprofit sector, these are the issues they tend to be concerned about that they're talking about. Same thing for public and same thing for profit, if we can get everybody to the table. And then Kathy's doing a summary of what we get from the surveys. The surveys go out to the general public. So once people take the survey, she'll analyze the results and give us a sense of where people are. Now remember, again, this is just the respondents. The people who participate is what we can speak to, not those, we're not trying to represent the entire region, just those who are actually participating.
When you invite someone in to participate,
yeah,
are they aware of the structure and the process?
Yes.
Do they know?
Yes, that's why it's by invitation.
Okay.
Right? So you sign up, you register, a letter goes out to you saying, you're not surprised when you get in there. You know, this is how we're gonna do it. If you're still willing to come, please do come and experience this. At any point in time in the conversation, you say, this is not for me. I don't feel like it's a good fit. You can walk out the room.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Connie? Do you think the letter did justice in like actually explaining the structure?
Yes, I think it was very clear and, comprehensive explanation of what to expect when you get there. And I thought it went very well.
So we could really use your help to push the survey. If you have an e-newsletter, if you have, social media feed, it doesn't take very long to just do a quick capture. If you click on the link, there is actually a little bit of text that you can copy and paste for context, so you don't have to come up with something and remember all of this.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, post something, just copying that and saying, hey, this is what IU is doing, here's why. And there is a spot too, I wanna say, where we invite people to share some demographics. That is not required, so if that's off-putting in any way, just know that we can skip that, we don't need it. We just kind of want to see who it is that's most interested in this topic, who are the people responding, and hopefully that we've got a good, diverse response rate, but we won't know that unless we ask these questions.
Kathy? I just wanted to say that I was just telling Flor, we can figure out a way to maybe send this particular slide with the QR code out to people
Thank you.
at the meeting so that they'll have it clean.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, Kathy, but you mentioned the regional greenhouse gas inventory before, and it's like NERC can kind of work on one sector. This is a sector where you really don't have domain, so it's going to take a cooperative, innovative approach for us to take a next step, should there be one. And this is really just a very foundational step to, again, make a landscape map of who's doing what, and then we'll find out if there wants to be a step two. Right?
The survey is fairly simple.
Yeah.
And it's easy to follow. I think most people should be able to do it.
Thank you. Yeah, we worked really hard on that, making sure that it would be user-friendly, not overwhelming. And the same thing was true for the questions. So we didn't just say, hey, that sounds like a good question. There's actually a design method for the structured conversations. We spend a lot of time working on the questions that we ask, the 3 questions that we ask. So it's very intentional with the goal of being able to break down barriers and bring people together. we really appreciate you taking the time. If you have other questions, we'll all be around, I think, for a minute.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on, we can go to our report for planning partners. Carl,
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Carol.
So, I'm going to start out with some of the events that are coming up. Is anybody going to the Indiana Sustainability Conference with IU tomorrow? Wonderful. So, that is happening tomorrow. We've got an event that we're doing in Indianapolis. Everyone's invited. We're having Tony Kanaan. Does any racing fans, Indianapolis racing fans? Tony Kanaan will be our guest speaker. It's our kickoff breakfast for the year for Drive Clean Indiana.
What time is the breakfast?
Breakfast starts at 7:30. Yeah,
I know. I gotta get up before breakfast to get there.
I think Ty's coming, or Kathy might be coming, maybe right with them. So, but we can carpool. So that's going on. And then if anybody's going to the National Truck Equipment Association, we have free passes for that. It is really probably one of the best events for everything being truck related and alternative fuels. So again, that's something, if any of your teams are going, please reach out to us and we'll have that. Porter County Earth Day is the 12th. I know we'll have a booth with NERC and several others here. If you would like some of the information to be on our booths, please, if you can't attend, please give it to us. Excuse me, that's gone. So if you're interested, please see Kathy or me, and we'll put your information on our booths, okay? So we'll have a display there with different alternative fuel vehicles. And then the Partners for Clean Air, which we talked about, that is going to be on the 12th of June, and that's held at the Hammond Marina. So the other thing about Partners, we do have a request out now for Lake Porter and LaPorte students that are interested in scholarships. So we have a $2,500 scholarship available, and it's all dependent on how many scholarships that we do receive. But you know, this group has given away over $32,500 of scholarships. So this is something, again, we're proud of. So I just wanted to start out with that. I do have some information on Partners. This was the information that we gave in Washington as we were there meeting with all of our elected officials. So, but it just talks about the benefits, and it's got our partners, and you see George Topol right there with us, but many of our industry partners. So again, this is open to all of us here in Northwest Indiana. If you'd like to get involved with the Partners program, please see Kathy or I on that. So, so I just want to get off topic just a little bit, and I'm taking a different route. So I know it's hard to believe that, I don't want to talk politics, but let's talk politics off the record. I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. I'm listening to all these opportunities that people are talking about. I want to thank you for everything that you represent at NERC, at Lake County, Porter County, LaPorte County. And again, I think one of the things that we're not good at, and I've talked to Kathy about this, is something we want to improve on, is telling our story. Not my story, not Kathy's story, not Bill's story, our story. And I think, again, this is an opportunity. So I would just tell you, I know this is hard to believe with my white hair, this is my 5th administration since being involved with Drive Clean Indiana, South Shore Clean Cities. And this is nothing new with this temporary shutdown. I would just want to let you know that. This is probably the 5th time when we get a new administration. Temporarily, there's been some type of hold back on federal funding. Okay, many of you in the room might remember that, but let's take a positive approach on this. And I just want to say to you is that, again, I'm looking at as a positive thing. So I think, as I said, I don't feel sometimes we are so busy, we forget to celebrate all the good that we stand for in our room here, and that how we brought it to our communities, our employment places, and obviously our families. So the success that our area's had with ready projects, Drive Clean, I think the money that we receive from doing the green fleets, I think our number is probably $40 to every dollar that's invested in us. We're giving $40 back to our region. $40. I mean, that's a pretty good investment. We've done very well with a lot of the grants that we've applied for, and we'll continue to do that. So again, I think the things that we were hearing in Washington were really what they were saying was a lot of the awards. We've got 19 federal awards, 19 throughout the state. A lot of these obviously are electric related. And I think there's gonna be some reworking of language and things like that in some of these deployments of these contracts. But not all of those contracts have been put on hold. So we have a lot that we're still working on that are electric related, propane related, natural gas related. So just, you know, I think when there is change, we're all a little hesitant, but also I think, again, this is our opportunity as the environmental group really to shine and to be positive and encourage all of us with the great work that we're doing. And, you know, and again, I appreciate everybody in this room, so I sincerely mean that. So, so grants, if I haven't talked to you yet, I know Ryan, my son, has been here. The IDEM, Indiana Department of Environmental Management grant is due actually tomorrow. We're working on several projects with several of the folks that are in this room, but it is the DARA, Diesel Emission Reduction Grant. So that grant is due tomorrow. There'll be awards probably by April, and this is for diesel emission reductions for different on-road and off-road projects. We're also working on a opportunity with the U.S. Department of Energy. There's a vehicle technology office, so that's who we report to for Clean Cities. It is a solicitation, guess what, it's on batteries and electric vehicles, and the solicitation is still out, it's still doable. So we'll be putting in several, we're gonna be the prime as Dry Clean Indiana with several of our communities, but the paper is due, I believe, on the 1st of April with awards by the 28th of June. The National Electric Vehicle Project, that's infrastructure for electric vehicles that Indiana was awarded, that INDOT was awarded. That's been put on hold. We also had the repair of electric charging stations throughout Indiana. That's been put on hold. But again, what we've been reassured that many of these projects will continue to move forward. The one thing that I didn't ask for Kathy's approval that we did, and please don't throw bananas at me, we did apply. Tesla had an opportunity for us to apply for level 2 charging stations for our communities. We put in applications on behalf of many of you that I've been working with, so we're waiting to hear back. So this correspondence has been going back and forth since December, and so we put in applications for, I think, about 20 in Northwest Indiana. So level 2, they would be universal charging stations, that they would become assets of our communities or our businesses in those communities. The only caveat on this is that we would have to install those. The cost of the installation would be on our dime. So that's something that hopefully at our next meeting we'll be able to say these are the communities that have been awarded some of these charging stations, and we'll work with others to put that in. So again, very optimistic. I think too there has been a big push. Indiana does not have an energy policy, right, which affects all of us. But from a perspective of a positive is, you know, we're just like the Clean Cities program. We don't promote one alternative fuel over the other. And so what we're seeing this, again, as an opportunity. So we're seeing a lot of natural gas, renewable natural gas, propane, electric. There's still a lot of activity, not just in Northwest Indiana, but throughout the state. So again, I would just say to you is that, you know, getting back to some of the basics with idle reduction. Anybody go through a drive-through today? Anybody? So what do you do when you go through the drive-through? How many miles per gallon you get? 0. Okay, so getting back to the basics of idle reduction, things like that, I think you're going to see that with our partners for clean air and getting back to just some of the basics. So again, I'm not here to lecture. I'm just here to provide a positive spin on things and encourage us to stand up, to educate our elected officials on all the great things that we're working on. And, you know, so again, I'm just very positive about the future of Northwest Indiana. And again, I just want to say thank you for all that you do for the environment. Reggie, your time is up.
Just give me the date of the partners lunch.
Partners lunch, it's in June. And one thing that we will try to do is get our notes in writing so you can have them when they send out the, yes, it is the 12th, thank you, George. 12th of June, it's at the Hammond Marina.
Where do we sign up for that?
You can, I'll sign you up for it.
Okay.
So I will put the link in with the notes.
Yeah.
So,
What other, on March the 19th, we have the large contractors workshop
How come I didn't get an invitation?
You're not on my list.
I'm
I want
insulted.
those handouts that you have there.
Okay.
I want, if you could get me 200, 300 copies of those, or give it to me and I'll have the copies made. That's something all the contractors, developers, and engineers need to have.
Awesome,
Okay,
awesome.
thank you.
Can do. Do we all have that can-do spirit? Let's can do it. George?
I add that you can get free memberships too, as long as you participate in some of the things,
Absolutely,
some, beneficial things.
absolutely. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, you're up. All right, Michigan, go.
Yeah, try to keep it brief here. Good morning, everybody, again. My name is Catherine from the Lake Michigan Coastal Program. Can everybody hear me okay? I tend to mumble sometimes, so I won't be offended to say speak up, and I will. I think I'm gonna go ahead and pick up where Kathy left off a little bit earlier with our discussion of federal funding. So I'm gonna pivot outside of my wheelhouse temporarily. I'm the grant specialist with the Coastal Program. I'm going to be a proxy for Jenny Orsburn, our program manager, today. So like I said earlier, the summary of where we're at right now is that we are cautiously proceeding as normal. The feedback that we've gotten from NOAA has generally been, standard operating procedures until we are told otherwise. So that was a great comfort to hear. To Carl's point, there are some parts of our grant proposal, some parts of our submission to NOAA that maybe we need to reword, be a little bit strategic with our vocabulary. But generally speaking, we're going to be carrying on as normal. If any of you were here at our previous meeting, you likely heard Jenny talk about our KELP plan, our Coastal Estuarine and Land Conservation Program plan update. That is still underway. We're working very closely with Purdue University on that. We're in the process of creating a survey to seek public input on, checking my notes, mainly habitat protection, at least to start. So if you are contacted either by Coastal Program or by Purdue University asking for your input on that survey, please consider taking the time to participate. That input is very valuable. While you're at it, go help IUN with their survey as well. Along with that survey, we are actively conducting GIS analysis, data collection, and that data is being analyzed as we speak. And on top of that, even one step further, Purdue has actually created a graduate school class, like a program for students to hop in and basically help facilitate in the collection and analysis of that data. So that's proceeding very well. We're happy with how far that's been going, and the planning effort is underway. We're still, like I say, Jenny wanted to make a point that within federal guidance and pending changing vocabulary based on the executive orders and whatnot, we are following guidance as best we can to implement our program as normal. We did receive one round of our bill funding. We did apply for and receive funding under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. We have, I believe, the first 2 years of that funding is secure. The third year of that funding, we're just going to have to play a little bit of a waiting game and see how that plays out. That's still under the review process at the state level, and we're hoping to continue with those projects as far as we'll be able to. And then lastly, from Jenny's side of the program, our 309 planning, which is a voluntary program enhancement planning project that the Coastal Program has opted to conduct. We do that every 5 years or so. We are in the middle of that evaluation and assessment to help with just standard program improvements. So I believe a survey went out regarding the 309 project. If it hasn't yet, that may be another piece of communication you see from us. We're just really interested in hearing what you all feel that you need from the Coastal Program in terms of either technical assistance, grant support, anything along those lines. Any way that we can better do our jobs for you and for our communities, please let us know. So that's on some of our more administrative side. My wheelhouse is the grant program, as I said. So we have officially selected our grant programs for the 2025 application cycle. We started accepting those applications in 2024. It's a year-long, tedious, admittedly, process. So this current application process has concluded, but if you're interested in applying for a coastal program grant, I am gonna be gearing up for the 2026 cycle before we know it. So please feel free to reach out to me at any point if you have any project ideas or would like to discuss any future programs with me. But we did have a wide variety of projects that were approved. We had 3 low-cost construction projects coming from the Indiana DNR Division of Nature Preserves, the town of Chesterton, and Pine Township for a very first. It was our first project to come from them. And then we had 3 education and outreach projects from some of our affectionately dubbed frequent flyers, Dunes Learning Center, Save the Dunes, and Porter County Parks and Recreation will submit their grant project information, to NOAA. 1 land acquisition project came through, predictably, from Lake County Parks and Recreation, still going strong with their land acquisition campaigns. We had 1 applied research project that we sort of built into our budget. If anybody's familiar with Indiana University Bloomington's work on the shipwrecks that are just off of the shore of State Park and Mount Baldy, that's the J.D. Marshall and the Muskegon, respectively. We help fund some of their efforts, some of their monitoring and technical assistance for those. And the city of Hobart has our 1 planning project for their update of their tree inventory, which was initially completed in 2016. So we're hoping to get some valuable data and just a new understanding, updated understanding of the tree populations on city-owned properties. So that was a lot. I apologize. That's really all I had from everybody. Joe is, our coastal hazards and our coastal resources coordinator. I'm sure there's plenty that he's up to that I unfortunately did not get a little summary from him. But if you have any questions about anything that anybody at the coastal program is up to, please feel free to reach out.
Catherine,
Yes.
I think it's important to let people know that there's a project, the Coastal Board, that we're doing that is one of those comprehensive projects in the Great Lakes. And this is the coastal map, and it's being done by Joe Exel.
Yes.
It is detailed. It is a tool that if you are a coastal community, even if you're not, to get an idea of what's being done to preserve and what's there already. There are communities like Long Beach, Dune Acres, Ogden Dunes that are going to be able to use this. But if you need anything as far as coastal activity, contact Joe Exel at Catherine's office. The GIS platform is another tool that you're going to be able to use. And the one thing we did differently this year on the grants, we took away any structure or limitations on what you could apply for. So we got a lot of good variety of plants or plans, and the resurrection of the preservation of those sunken ships is just, it was like some people thought it was great, some people thought it was stupid, but those of us that thought it was great won. So it's they're going to get the help with that. So there's a lot of really good work that Catherine does, and you have no idea that small little office and how much they can accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a nice compliment. Small but mighty. That's us.
Yeah, well, I have 2 questions. First, I didn't know if any of your guidance coming down or any of the word choice editing thing that we're doing, strategic vocabulary. Is there anything about the word resilience or resiliency planning? Like, I'm not sure if that is a trigger word or not. Do you know?
I don't. I haven't had it confirmed one way or the other. I share that kind of uneasiness. The Great Lakes, there are grant managers all across the Great Lakes coastal states, and we have a little monthly meeting where we all kind of vent our worries and questions together. And pretty much every grant manager I've talked to has been like, where is that line?
Okay.
I personally think resilience is a broad enough term that, outside of maybe some of the Army Corps definitions, is not as well defined that it could be limited to one specific thing.
Yeah.
So I'm tentatively still using that while I'm preparing the project summaries for NOAA. There are other things like, you know, climate change. I try to dodge that if needed. Not to say that we don't want you to focus on work addressing that, it just, I feel like I shouldn't put it in writing, if that makes sense. Yeah.
My other question was, so the program enhancement funds that we're still working on, can we talk about some of those projects or not, the new ones that are in process, like, oh, the cars for sale?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so like, anything that we have like received the funding for, that we've accepted the award, I feel like, as I understand it, is safe.
Okay.
Because I feel like it would be a lot of trouble to try to backpedal and take that money back. So I think anything that's officially underway.
We are working with Coastal Program on a contract for NERC, primarily Jen and a little of me, and Grace, our GIS person, to do grant readiness for communities and for other partners, similar to what we funded Dry Clean, although not as much fun. Dry cleaning had to do with air quality and vehicles, is for us to do around kind of habitat, green infrastructure, kelp resilience, that kind of stuff, so we can help cities and towns with that. And so ideally the grants would be for NOAA, but you know, grant readiness is grant readiness. It's broader than that. Help scope with that. So Jen's gonna have time for that. So that's gonna help us with some of these other ones that are probably maybe not coming back. Some other projects that are part of that we're just kind of paying attention to. We have a project that is gonna be investigating barriers on aquatic passage. So like that prevents fish or animals from getting from one side of the water to the other side of the water. Since often, not always, those barriers are roads, that comes back into our road resilience kind of thing, comes right back into our, some of it will come back into, you might see future resiliency from NERC out of that. There's another one, but I can't remember the other one. But
when you're talking about using the word sustainability and resilience, Great Lakes Conservancy and the Great Lakes Accord is using that now. They're putting it in a lot of their outreach material, so it's there. I mean, if that's what we're looking.
That conversation just struck me on something too, as we talk about whatever resolution we might wanna pass. If anyone feels uncomfortable, for whatever reason with your agency or whatever, I'm taking any position on that, you can feel free to abstain or whatever you guys do. I don't wanna put anybody in an uncomfortable position. I just think it's important for our committee to make those statements.
I don't see why anybody should be uncomfortable with that. It's long-term planning. It's if you do something today, you want it there for your grandchildren. Yeah. If you do something that has a short-term event, maybe, or short-term action, maybe there's some way that can be tied in. As we look at this next round of grants.
I just mean everyone's got different jobs, or they're here for different reasons. I'm elected, so I can kind of say what I want. So to an extent, I mean, you know.
I'm gonna write that down.
I'm sorry. What he wants. I can say what I believe is best for my constituents, but others are, you know, here with an agency who may have different, you know, heads and agency heads and things like that. So I understand how that goes.
Why we have sensible tools, not sustainable tools, but
sure.
Lake Michigan Coastal encompasses the Lake Michigan watershed.
Correct.
Okay, and where do you find the map that identifies what those areas are?
On our website.
On your website, okay.
Yep, my contact information, everybody else, the whole team's.
Are you located on US 30 or are you up here?
We're actually in the state park. So
state park, okay.
If you go through the main gate and you take the second exit on that roundabout, as if you're going to the pavilion, you're gonna see this like scraggly, weird little brick building on top of a hill on the right-hand side, and that's our office.
Oh.
Union Township.
We're in the watershed.
I think you're in the water. Yeah, you're in.
We are.
I think so.
We've applied for grants in
Yeah.
the past, but we're unsuccessful, but maybe we can revisit that.
Please do.
Comprehensive plan is what I had
We fund those, yes.
reached out for.
Yeah.
But I think for more reasons.
Feel free to reach out to me at any time if you want. Thank you, appreciate it.
But this is one of the reasons that the advisory board looked at the constraints on the grant applications. So I removed those this year, so there were no constraints, and anything that you wanted to tackle, you could present, okay? And you weren't restricted by, you know, certain policies or whatever. So this way, we received a lot of different grants, so coming from your area would be a different type of need than what, say, Long Beach or something would need.
Well, we've got a transformational highway that's coming through, and we've got flooding issues and things like that.
Sure.
So with that, you know, growth is inevitable, and so we're trying to figure out where we're going and how we get there.
Fair enough. And just to be clear, what Reggie's referring to are our grant funding priorities.
Yeah.
The Coastal Advisory Board votes on those based on public input from a survey that I craft and put out usually in the summer of every year. To Reggie's point, we did not receive substantial responses this year, so we really didn't have the data to set the funding priorities. But the priorities are never, you know, limiting necessarily. You can apply for whatever project you want as long as it's eligible and in a workable zone for our program. The funding priorities basically would just give kind of a bonus point to projects that aligned with those priorities. So some projects might have fast tracked to the year that would have their priority in place. But I just, not to dismiss what Reggie's saying, she's right, we got a lot of, you know, a lot more variety than we normally do, but I don't want to ever discourage anybody from applying for any given application cycle.
And you provide assistance.
I do, yes.
Fabulous.
Yes, you can email me, call me as many times as you like, requesting feedback on your application.
That is one of her key talents. If you aren't sure, you run it by Catherine, and you will get the help you need.
That's really nice, thank you, Reggie.
Can you just repeat your name?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm Catherine Balkema. It's B as in boy, A-L-K-E-M-A, it's a good Dutch name. But yeah, just feel free to reach out with any project ideas, or if you're just curious to know more about the grants program. Of course.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys, appreciate your time.
All right, moving, I guess announcements.
Oh,
Who has announcements? You made a couple already, Reggie, but.
Do I what?
Anybody have any announcements?
Oh, yes. March the 19th, Wednesday, at the Dean White Community Center in Maryville is our 12th annual Contractors, Developers, and Engineers training. This is a requirement under the Clean Water Act and the construction permits, where we teach the builders, designers on what is the best practices to protect the waters of the U.S. So right now we have registration is up to almost 200. Last year I had 300. So I think we're doing well, and the municipalities then send out the notice to anybody who builds or develops within their community so that they're there, because to operate in your community, you have to have the certified training sticker.
It's always very good. I've been doing this for a while and I always learn something new with that. So. Any other announcements? Tim?
Yeah, the Holbrook Stormwater District just initiated a new project, which is, I've been told, it's the first of its kind in the state of Indiana. And we're doing a stormwater inventory of all of our assets, and we're going to do an assessment, which includes of all the stormwater assets and modeling of the stormwater system. So basically, it's going to be a $2 million plus project. It's going to being phased in for about 5 years right now, and kind of proud of it because we're going to really look at everything we've got when it comes to stormwater. That includes all private and public B&Bs, ponds, spoils, catch basins, manholes, the whole thing. Very comprehensive study, and been fighting it for a few years, and finally got it approved, and looking forward to it. October, I'm going to give a brief presentation on the project at Nice Flag, and I'm planning to update the public on that, because it's, like I said, it's a very complex, project.
That's great. Wow. Anything you need from our office on that, we have a little bit of, connection there too, so we'll, yeah, we can coordinate on that. Great.
This is a leadership role for the region, what Hobart is doing, and at their meeting in October, you'll start laying the groundwork. Then at the 2026 MS4 annual meeting in Indy, they will give a presentation on what this is, so that others can see how it's done, and what's going into it. We had a presentation from the kind of new but expanded Indiana ArcGIS group, and they are getting money and employees, I guess. They're expanding their role. So there's so much more now that they can do for municipalities that municipalities don't have to pay for. And so there's a lot of information there that he provided for us too. So
This is a good, I would mention this isn't really fully baked yet, but our GIS person, Grace Benninger, she and a handful of others, they are trying to reboot the Northwest Indiana GIS user forum, which some of us were in when GIS was DOS-based. So you don't know what DOS means. And so if you have GIS staff or person, stay tuned for more information about that. So it would be a regional organizational get together periodically to, I don't know, exchange data, make sure that everybody's on the same page, find out what everybody has, kind of thing.
When's that information coming out?
If you're interested, I will give your information to
please.
Grace.
Yeah, Jill and myself.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Any other announcements?
Yes, one of the things we're trying to do is trying to update our GIS to, we're in the process of implementing OpenGov. And we want to consolidate the GIS with the OpenGov, so all of our operations are going to be more efficient. And it's a big undertaking by the city and the HSD, and any help we can get on the GIS side would be really appreciative.
All right, anything else? All right, hearing no further announcements, our next meeting, our scheduled meeting is gonna be May 1st, 10 a.m. right here. And unless I hear any objection, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.